There comes a moment in every woman's life when she looks at herself, not through the mirror on the wall, but through the mirror of her soul. She sees not just her reflection, but her resilience. She sees not just her beauty, but her bravery. And in that sacred glance, she begins to understand that confidence is not born from applause, nor granted by approval. It is grown deep within, like a seed watered by courage, discipline, and love. A confident woman does not rise by accident. She is shaped by the habits she chooses every day, habits that whisper to her spirit, "You are worthy. You are enough. You are becoming." These are not habits that can be borrowed or bought. They are cultivated in quiet moments, when no one is watching, when the world demands surrender, and she chooses to stand tall. The first habit every woman must learn is to listen to her own voice. There will always be noise, the chatter of expectations, the opinions that bruise, the judgments that come like rain in a storm. But a woman who knows her own voice, who honors it above the echo of the crowd, carries peace inside her bones. Listening to yourself is not arrogance, it is wisdom. For within you lives the truth of who you are. And when you silence your spirit to please others, you turn down the volume on your destiny. Listen to yourself when the world says you can't, and your soul quietly answers, "I already have." Listen when your heart says rest, when your mind says create, when your body says heal. The woman who trusts her inner voice builds a confidence that no outside validation can shake. She does not rush to explain herself. She does not beg to be understood. She simply walks with the knowing that her voice is sacred and her choices are divine. The second habit is to honor your boundaries. Confidence is not loudness. It is the quiet knowing that your peace is worth protecting. A woman who respects her limits does not do so out of fear, but out of self-respect. She knows that saying no is not rejection. It is redirection. It is the art of telling the world, "I am not available for what breaks me." Too often, women are taught that kindness means compliance, that love means sacrifice without rest, that to be strong is to carry everyone's burden but their own. But a confident woman learns that her time, her energy, her body, and her dreams are sacred ground. She gives, but she does not empty herself. She loves, but she does not lose herself. She cares, but she does not carry what is not hers. Setting boundaries does not make her hard, it makes her whole. She becomes soft where she chooses, firm where she must, and unshaken where she stands. When she guards her peace, she discovers that not everyone deserves access to her energy, and that realization, though painful, is liberating. The third habit every woman must build is to keep promises to herself. A confident life is not a gift, it is a commitment. Confidence grows when your actions align with your words, when you tell yourself, "I will," and then you do. Every time a woman keeps her word to herself, she builds trust within her soul. Every time she honors her own goals, no matter how small, she proves to herself that she is reliable, capable, and worthy. Many women keep promises to everyone but themselves. They show up for others while abandoning their own needs. They deliver for the world while starving their dreams. But confidence comes when you realize you are someone worth showing up for, too. Keep the promise to rest when you said you would. Keep the promise to move your body, to nurture your mind, to write that page, to start that dream, to choose yourself. A confident woman's foundation is not built in a day. It is built in the daily practice of keeping her word. It is built in small, consistent acts of self-respect. And when she fails, and she will, she does not condemn herself. She simply begins again, whispering, "I am still worthy." Because confidence is not perfection, it is persistence. The fourth habit is to speak life, not fear. The words a woman uses are the architects of her reality. Speak small, and your world will shrink to fit your words. Speak strong, and your life will rise to meet your belief. A confident woman understands that her tongue holds power, the power to build or to break, to heal or to harm, to lift or to limit. She refuses to speak against herself. She refuses to call herself ugly, unworthy, or incapable. She replaces self-doubt with self-affirmation. She says, I am learning, instead of, I am failing. She says, I am growing, instead of, I am not enough. Her language becomes a tool for transformation. When she looks in the mirror, she doesn't wait for compliments to confirm her beauty. She tells herself the truth. I am made of strength. I am made of softness. I am made of light. She praises her own reflection not because she is vain, but because she knows her spirit deserves celebration. She speaks life into other women too. She lifts rather than competes, celebrates rather than criticizes. A confident woman knows that when another woman shines, it does not dim her light, it multiplies it. She walks through the world leaving behind echoes of encouragement, because she understands that confidence, when shared, grows stronger. The fifth habit every woman must nurture is the art of gratitude. Gratitude is the soil in which confidence blooms. It is the quiet reminder that even in imperfection, there is enough. A woman who practices gratitude does not deny her pain, but she refuses to let it define her. She looks at her scars and says, still, I rise. She sees the lessons in the losses, the blessings in the burdens, and the beauty in the becoming. Gratitude transforms what she has into abundance. It teaches her that joy is not found in what is missing, but in what remains. When she wakes, she gives thanks for breath, for a new beginning, for the gift of choice. When she faces struggle, she gives thanks for strength, for wisdom, for the chance to try again. Gratitude keeps her grounded when life is good, and hopeful when life is not. It anchors her in humility but also lifts her in grace. She learns that confidence without gratitude turns to pride, but gratitude without confidence turns to silence. She finds the sacred balance between the two, and in that harmony she lives free. Confidence, you see, is not about walking into a room and demanding attention. It is about walking into a room and not needing it. It is the calm assurance that you are whole, even if unseen. It is the peace that comes from knowing you are doing the work, inside and out, to become the woman you were meant to be. Confidence does not come from clothes, makeup, status, or validation. It comes from integrity, kindness, and courage. It comes from how you treat yourself when no one is watching. It comes from how you rise after the fall, how you speak after the silence, how you love after the heartbreak. A confident woman walks slowly through her days, not because she is unsure, but because she is grounded. She smiles not because life is perfect, but because she has made peace with its imperfection. She carries herself not with arrogance, but with awareness. Every step she takes says, I know who I am. And she remembers confidence is not constant. There will be days she doubts, days she breaks, days she questions everything. But even in those moments, she holds on to her habits. She listens to her voice. She honors her boundaries. She keeps her promises. She speaks life. She practices gratitude. And little by little, she rebuilds herself again. Because a confident life is not about never falling. It is about never forgetting that you can rise. There is something sacred about a woman who has learned to rise on her own. She no longer seeks rescue because she has become her own refuge. She no longer seeks validation because she has validated her own existence. She does not chase because she has learned that what is meant for her will not need to be begged for. It will recognize her light and come with peace. She becomes magnetic, not because she is perfect, but because she is real. Her confidence is not armor. It is her truth, worn openly, gracefully, unapologetically. She knows her worth does not shrink in silence, and her beauty does not fade in solitude. She knows that even in her quietest moments, she is still powerful. Her confidence makes others feel safe to be themselves. People are drawn to her energy, to her calm, to her authenticity. They sense that she has walked through storms and still found her song. They see the depth in her eyes and understand. This woman has met herself, and she did not flinch. A confident woman builds her life with intention. She chooses her circle with care. She surrounds herself with those who inspire her growth, not those who drain her spirit. She forgives, but she does not forget the lessons. She loves, but she does not lose her voice in love. She nurtures, but she does not neglect her own needs. She walks with compassion, for she knows every woman carries unseen battles. But she also walks with discernment, for she understands not every battle deserves her fight. Her confidence allows her to choose her peace over her pride, her growth over her grudges. She lives with purpose, not just for survival, but for legacy. She wants her daughter, her sister, her friend, her reflection, to look at her life and say, if she could stand tall, so can I. Confidence is contagious when it is rooted in authenticity. When a woman embraces her power, she gives silent permission for others to do the same. She becomes an example, not of perfection, but of persistence. She becomes living proof that grace and grit can coexist. And when the world tries to shake her, as it surely will, she returns to her habits. She listens again, honors again, promises again, speaks again, and gives thanks again. These habits are not temporary. They are the rhythm of her becoming. She learns that the most powerful kind of confidence is quiet. It does not need to prove, it simply is. It walks into a room and shifts the air. It smiles when misunderstood. It forgives without forgetting who it is. It glows not because it seeks light, but because it has become it. Confidence is not a performance. It is a prayer. It is the way a woman carries her scars like medals, her pain like poetry, her past like wisdom. It is how she stands firm in her story and still believes in better chapters to come. She no longer needs to be chosen because she has chosen herself. She no longer seeks permission because she has given it to herself. She no longer hides because she understands that the world needs her full presence. She is not afraid to be seen, not afraid to speak, not afraid to start again. She understands that confidence does not mean having it all together. It means trusting herself, even when she does not. Every woman deserves that kind of peace. Every woman deserves that kind of confidence. And every woman can have it. Not through perfection, but through practice. Through 5 simple, sacred habits that turn ordinary days into extraordinary strength. Listen to yourself. Honor your boundaries. Keep your promises. Speak life. And give thanks. Do these things again and again until confidence becomes not something you perform, but something you embody. Until your reflection stops asking for proof and starts radiating pride. Until you wake up and realize you are no longer becoming her. You already are. Confidence grows in the soil of self-respect. It is not gifted, it is cultivated day after day through choices that honor your worth. Self-respect is the foundation on which a confident life stands, and without it, even the most beautiful dreams collapse under the weight of self-doubt. A woman who respects herself does not wait for others to define her value. She defines it in the way she speaks to herself, in the standards she keeps, in the boundaries she protects, and in the dignity with which she walks through the world. Self-respect is not pride. It is the quiet knowing that your heart, your time, and your energy deserve care. It is the decision to no longer shrink for acceptance, to no longer apologize for existing fully, to no longer dim your light to make others comfortable. It is the gentle courage of standing tall, even when your knees tremble. A woman rooted in self-respect does not chase what depletes her. She knows that what is meant for her will never require her to beg. She understands that real love, real friendship, real purpose will never demand that she betray herself. Self-respect teaches her to walk away from anything that costs her peace, because she knows peace is not a luxury, it is her birthright. When a woman respects herself, she stops tolerating the half-hearted and the unkind. She becomes selective not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. She understands that her spirit is precious soil, and not every seed deserves to be planted there. Confidence does not come from being perfect. It comes from honoring yourself even in imperfection. Self-respect means forgiving yourself for your past, but holding yourself accountable for your growth. It means treating yourself with the same compassion you offer to others. It means saying, I am learning, but I am still worthy. A woman who respects herself does not tear herself down for every mistake. She uses her pain as instruction, her failures as foundation. She speaks to herself kindly because she knows that her inner voice sets the tone for her life. A woman with self-respect moves differently. She enters rooms without needing validation because she carries her worth within her. She does not measure her value by comparison or by the approval of others. Her self-respect is not loud, but it is unshakable. It is present in her silence, her smile, her posture, and her patience. She does not compete for attention. She commands it through presence. She does not beg to be understood. She lives in such a way that understanding her becomes effortless. To respect yourself is to protect your essence. It is to build a life that reflects your values, not your fears. It is to stop overextending for those who would never do the same. It is to set standards that reflect your worth and never lower them out of loneliness. Self-respect teaches you that solitude is not punishment. It is power. It reminds you that you do not have to be everything for everyone to be enough for yourself. It reminds you that every time you choose yourself, you strengthen your confidence. And every time you honor your worth, you grow in grace. A woman's power begins when she listens to herself. The world will speak to her in 1,000 voices, each louder than the last, each telling her who she should be, how she should look, what she should want, and how she should live. But deep beneath the noise, there is a softer sound, the sound of her own truth, the sound of her intuition, the sound of her knowing. That voice does not shout, it whispers. It speaks gently, patiently, waiting for her to trust it. And when she finally listens, she begins to step into her true power. Listening to yourself is not selfish, it is sacred. It is the act of turning inward to hear the wisdom your soul already carries. It is realizing that you have been your own guide all along, that your heart has always known the way, even when fear tried to drown it out. A woman who listens to herself stops living in reaction to others. She stops chasing approval because she understands that her spirit's peace matters more than anyone's praise. She stops allowing others to dictate her choices because she knows only she must live with the consequences. Listening to yourself is an act of faith, the kind that requires courage and patience. It means trusting your instincts even when the world calls them irrational. It means following your path even when no one else understands it. It means saying yes to your dreams, no to your doubts, and always choosing the voice that feels like home inside you. When a woman begins to truly listen to herself, her life changes. She notices how her energy responds to certain people and situations. She becomes aware of what drains her and what nourishes her. She begins to honor the signals her body gives, when to rest, when to create, when to let go. She learns to distinguish between fear and intuition, between noise and guidance. She realizes that the answers she has been searching for outside were always within. Listening to herself becomes a daily practice, a quiet ritual of alignment and awareness. The woman who listens to her inner voice does not rush. She understands that clarity takes stillness. She does not fear solitude, because it is in solitude that her voice grows strongest. She spends time with her thoughts, not to overthink, but to understand. She reflects before reacting, observes before judging, and breathes before deciding. Her inner voice becomes her compass, guiding her toward peace, purpose, and authenticity. Listening to yourself also means honoring what you feel, even when it is inconvenient. It means allowing yourself to cry without shame, to rest without guilt, to change without permission. It means acknowledging your needs instead of silencing them for the comfort of others. When a woman does this, she becomes unstoppable, not because she has all the answers, but because she has learned to trust herself enough to find them. She learns to walk in her truth, even when her steps are uncertain, and she learns to honor the voice within even when the world grows loud. Boundaries are acts of love toward your own peace. They are not barriers built out of anger, but bridges built out of wisdom. A woman who learns to set boundaries learns to protect the calm within her. She realizes that her energy is sacred, her time is valuable, and her heart deserves gentleness. Too often women are taught that saying yes is kindness and saying no is cruelty. But a wise woman knows that every no she gives to chaos is a yes she gives to herself. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about letting the right people in. They are about creating space where respect can breathe and love can grow without suffocating her soul. A woman who respects her boundaries no longer feels the need to explain them. She does not apologize for prioritizing her mental health, for choosing silence over drama, for walking away from conversations that drain her. She understands that she cannot pour from an empty cup, and she refuses to keep emptying herself just to be accepted. Boundaries remind her that self-care is not selfish. It is survival. It is the act of choosing balance over burnout, truth over tolerance, and peace over pleasing. When a woman begins to practice boundaries, she may feel guilt at first. The world will not always applaud her for saying no. People who benefited from her lack of boundaries may call her distant, unkind, or difficult. But she learns that their discomfort is not her responsibility. The strength of a boundary is not measured by others' approval, but by her own sense of alignment. The moment she stops needing permission to protect her peace, she begins to live freely. Boundaries teach her that not everyone deserves access to her energy. She starts to understand that she is not responsible for fixing others, that she does not have to answer every call, respond to every demand, or carry every burden. She learns that love does not require constant availability. It requires mutual respect. A woman with strong boundaries can still love deeply, but she no longer sacrifices her sanity to prove her love. Her heart becomes wiser, her relationships healthier, her life calmer. Boundaries also help her hear herself again. Without them, her days are filled with noise, obligations, and endless giving. But when she draws the line, she begins to reconnect with her own rhythm. She has time to rest, to think, to dream. She learns to say yes to what nourishes her and no to what depletes her. She realizes that peace is not found in the absence of others, but in the presence of herself. Setting boundaries transforms how she sees herself. She no longer defines her worth by how much she gives, but by how intentionally she lives. She stops seeking validation in exhaustion and starts finding beauty in balance. Her boundaries become her strength, her clarity, her self-respect in action. They teach her that love can coexist with firmness, that compassion can coexist with distance, and that peace can only exist when she chooses it deliberately. Promise yourself consistency, not perfection. The journey of confidence is not about flawless execution, but about faithful persistence. A woman who promises herself consistency learns to show up even when motivation fades, even when progress feels invisible, even when doubt whispers that she is not enough. She understands that greatness is not built in grand gestures but in small, steady steps taken every day. Perfection is a trap that keeps her frozen. Consistency is a rhythm that keeps her growing. When she chooses consistency over perfection, she learns to celebrate effort instead of fearing error, and that shift becomes her freedom. A woman who honors consistency begins to trust herself again. She realizes that keeping her word to herself is an act of self-love. Each morning she rises and does the work, not because she feels ready, but because she knows discipline will carry her where motivation cannot. She sets small goals and keeps them. She keeps showing up for her health, her peace, her dreams, her healing. Every act of follow-through strengthens her confidence. Each promise kept builds a foundation of self-trust. She learns that confidence is not born from success, but from commitment. She stops waiting for perfect conditions and begins to create progress with what she has. The woman who embraces consistency gives herself grace for her pace. She understands that growth takes time and that some seasons will move slower than others. She no longer compares her timeline to anyone else's because she knows that her journey is uniquely her own. She understands that the woman she is becoming is being shaped not by leaps but by layers, not by bursts of inspiration, but by daily discipline. She lets go of the illusion that everything must be done right now. She learns patience with her process and compassion for her imperfections. Consistency teaches her the power of commitment over emotion. There will be days when she feels powerful and days when she feels weary. But she keeps going. She knows that progress often hides in the quiet persistence of ordinary moments. She realizes that every time she shows up, whether it's for her dreams, her healing, or her peace, she is building a record of reliability with herself, and that record becomes her confidence. The more she keeps her promises, the more she believes in her own strength. A woman who promises herself consistency stops seeking instant validation. She no longer needs applause to stay committed. She understands that the reward of discipline is not in the approval of others, but in the transformation within herself. She becomes grounded in her habits, patient with her growth and gentle with her rest. Consistency gives her stability when life becomes unpredictable. It becomes her anchor when the waves of doubt rise. It reminds her that progress is not measured in speed but in devotion, not in perfection but in persistence. Through every stumble, she continues to stand, not because she never falls, but because she refuses to stop showing up for herself. Speak life until your spirit believes it. The words you speak to yourself are seeds, and every seed has power. A woman who learns to speak life over her own soul begins to understand that language shapes destiny. When she changes the way she talks to herself, she changes the way she sees herself. Her words become nourishment for her confidence, water for her growth, and medicine for her wounds. Every time she chooses to speak kindness instead of criticism, she builds strength in her spirit. Every time she replaces self-doubt with affirmation, she teaches her heart to trust her own light. Speaking life is not pretending everything is perfect. It is choosing to see beauty in the process, hope in the struggle, and worth in the becoming. A woman who speaks life knows that her voice holds creation. She knows that the tone she uses with herself determines the energy she carries into the world. Harsh words make her small, but gentle ones make her bloom. When she says, "I can," her actions begin to align with possibility. When she says, "I am enough," her heart begins to heal from years of comparison. When she says, "I am growing," her mind releases the need for perfection. Her voice becomes her power, not her punishment. She learns that she does not have to wait for others to affirm her, when she can affirm herself every morning with her own words. Speaking life is a practice of self-respect. It is standing before the mirror and choosing to see more than flaws. It is refusing to call yourself broken just because you are still healing. It is catching the negative thoughts before they take root and replacing them with truth. The woman who speaks life stops letting shame narrate her story. She tells herself, "I am allowed to start again," and she does. She tells herself, "I am worthy of peace," and she seeks it. She tells herself, "I have purpose," and she begins to live like she believes it. When a woman speaks life, her world begins to shift. Her relationships grow gentler because she no longer communicates from pain. Her energy becomes magnetic because she radiates self-assurance. She becomes the kind of person who uplifts others simply by existing. She does not compete, she celebrates. She does not gossip, she blesses. She speaks to others with the same grace she gives herself. Her words become a reflection of her healing, and her healing becomes a reflection of her words. There will be days when her voice trembles, when fear tries to silence her, when self-doubt whispers louder than faith. But even then, she will choose to speak life again. She will whisper words of power over her own spirit until her heart starts to believe them again. She will speak life until she becomes it, until every corner of her being remembers that she is whole, worthy, and radiant beyond measure. Gratitude is the heartbeat of a confident woman. It is the quiet rhythm that keeps her grounded when the world tries to shake her, the gentle reminder that even when life is imperfect, it is still filled with meaning. Gratitude is not about pretending that everything is fine. It is about recognizing that even in the mess, there are miracles. A woman who practices gratitude learns to see differently. She looks beyond what is missing and focuses on what remains. She understands that blessings are not always loud or grand. They are often hidden in ordinary days, in small moments of laughter, in the warmth of sunlight, in the strength of her own breath. Gratitude gives her balance, teaching her to hold both joy and sorrow with grace. It allows her to say, "I have enough," even when she has less than she hoped for, because she knows contentment is not measured by possessions but by perspective. A woman anchored in gratitude learns to walk slower. She stops rushing through her days in search of something better and begins to cherish the beauty in what is already before her. She thanks life for teaching her lessons that pain could not teach gently. She thanks her struggles for shaping her strength. She even thanks her disappointments, for they revealed who she was and what she deserved. Gratitude turns her wounds into wisdom. It transforms loss into appreciation, mistakes into lessons, and moments into memories worth keeping. Gratitude softens her spirit, but strengthens her heart. It makes her gentle with herself and patient with her process. A grateful woman no longer competes or compares, because she understands that her journey is hers alone. She celebrates other women's successes without envy, knowing that their light does not dim her own. Gratitude reminds her that there is enough room for all women to shine. It teaches her that life is not a race to be won, but a path to be appreciated. In gratitude, she finds peace with her pace, joy in her progress, and faith in her future. The woman who practices gratitude wakes each morning with awareness. She begins her day not with a list of complaints, but with a list of blessings. She acknowledges the small victories: the morning coffee that warms her hands, the roof that shelters her, the friends who listen, the body that carries her through another day. She realizes that the ordinary is not ordinary at all when viewed through the lens of appreciation. Gratitude shifts her focus from what she lacks to what she loves. It brings light to the corners of her mind where anxiety once lived. It teaches her that joy is not found in having everything, but in recognizing everything she already has. Gratitude also changes how she faces pain. When life disappoints her, she no longer asks, "Why me?" but "What is this teaching me?" She does not deny her emotions, but she lets gratitude keep her from drowning in them. It gives her strength to see that even endings hold beginnings, and that even heartbreak can lead to healing. Gratitude does not erase her sorrow, it gives it purpose. It allows her to look at the scars of her past and say, "These are proof that I survived." She carries gratitude into her storms, and it becomes her shelter. A grateful woman sees beauty in imperfection. She does not need life to be flawless to be fulfilling. She knows that some days will be heavy, some dreams will delay, and some people will disappoint, but she still chooses to say thank you. She thanks the difficult people for teaching her boundaries. She thanks failure for humbling her. She thanks waiting for teaching her patience. Gratitude transforms her bitterness into understanding. It allows her to stand in the same place where she once cried and smile instead, because she can finally see how far she has come. Gratitude also deepens her confidence. It reminds her that she has overcome before and will do it again. When she faces uncertainty, she reflects on every obstacle she has already conquered. She remembers the nights she thought she wouldn't make it, and the mornings she rose anyway. She recalls how grace has carried her, and how resilience has rebuilt her. Gratitude becomes her evidence that she is stronger than she believes. It becomes her proof that she is guided, protected, and capable. With gratitude, fear loses its power, because she no longer doubts her ability to endure. A woman who lives in gratitude radiates a quiet confidence that cannot be faked. Her joy does not depend on circumstance. It comes from within. People feel it when she enters a room. The calm in her voice, the ease in her laughter, the softness in her eyes. She carries an aura of peace that makes others feel safe. Her gratitude becomes contagious. It reminds others to slow down, to appreciate, to breathe. She inspires not by what she has, but by how she sees. Her life becomes a living prayer of thanks. A gentle testimony that happiness is not about having more, but about being more present. Gratitude also strengthens her relationships. It teaches her to see the best in people instead of dwelling on their flaws. She appreciates the kindness of others, no matter how small. She says thank you often, not just with words, but with actions. Her gratitude deepens connections because people feel valued in her presence. And when she must let someone go, she does so with grace, thankful for what they gave her rather than bitter for what they could not. Gratitude allows her to release without resentment and love without fear. When a woman practices gratitude long enough, it becomes her way of seeing the world. Even in silence, she gives thanks. Even in loss, she finds meaning. Even in solitude, she feels blessed. She begins to understand that life's greatest gifts are often disguised as simple moments. Shared laughter, deep conversations, quiet mornings, the sound of rain, the peace after tears. Gratitude becomes her compass, always pointing her back to joy. It reminds her that no matter what happens, there is always something to be thankful for. Even if that something is the strength to keep going, gratitude turns her life into a collection of miracles. It teaches her to notice, to appreciate, to celebrate. It turns an ordinary day into a sacred one. It reminds her that happiness is not found in the future. It is hidden in the present. Gratitude helps her rise above envy, fear, and scarcity. It roots her in abundance, showing her that she already has more than enough to live beautifully. And when she walks through the world with that awareness, her confidence glows. She stops striving to prove her worth because she realizes it has always been there. Gratitude grounds her in peace and lifts her in grace, giving her the kind of confidence that cannot be shaken by circumstance, the kind that comes from knowing that every breath, every lesson, every moment is a gift